Hello, this is Sarah Brash. Welcome back to my channel. So I want to do a video about Rh negative blood and specifically about O negative blood. So I've mentioned this in other videos and I mentioned it on Twitter, and I just want people to understand why I'm mentioning this. So I've spoken, and I'm going to do a couple more videos still tonight about how Yale University is really in the thrall of the Black supremacist and anti-Semitic melanin and original DNA conspiracy theories, and also how I am now of the well-considered opinion that the melanin and original DNA conspiracy theories form the foundation of woke intersectional feminism and critical race theory. So, and I do think that this explains why is another reason, not maybe not the reason, but is definitely another reason that the Yale administration targeted me for expulsion for years, chose to participate in the Living or Napping While Black, chose to direct the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale, and chose to lead the global vilification campaign against me that almost got me killed. I do believe that it was the Yale administration's intent to end my life, to drive me to suicide, to incite my murder, to get me killed. I believe that they enlisted the help of the fake news press and the entire moral outrage industry and many other academics, politicians, etc. And so I think there's many reasons why they wanted so much for me to be dead and not to be a thorn in their side anymore. There's many reasons. I've addressed how, I'm the last unwoke civil libertarian to be accepted at Yale, how I was ostracized and turned into a social pariah on Yale's campus during my first year in the philosophy PhD program in 2015 because I stood up for the federal civil rights, the religious expression rights of an evangelical Black man at Yale. And so the Yale administration were thrilled. They were absolutely thrilled in February 2018 when Lolata Siambola and Jean-Louis Renison approached them and said, oh, guess what, we're accusing, it's a ludicrous asinine accusation, we all know it, but we are here to falsely accuse Sarah Brush of having perpetrated a racist hate crime comparable to a lynching after I had already been exonerated by Yale Housing. And at that point, I told the Yale administration said that they wanted me to participate in a struggle session, a public town hall, where I was going to teach all of the other members of the Yale community how not to be a racist like me, and they just were adamant about destroying me by publicly branding me a racist. And I told them to go jump in a lake and that I would sue them and pursue legal remedies if they didn't stop harassing me. And so it was at that point that the Yale administration just full bore decided to help direct the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax and then lead the subsequent global defamation campaign to get me killed. So Lolata Siambola is a very well documented proponent of the Black supremacist and anti-Semitic melanin and original DNA conspiracy theories, and there's no way that Yale didn't know this, the Yale administration didn't know this, and in fact, I now think that Yale is completely in the thrall of these conspiracy theories, and I think they form the foundation of woke intersectional feminism and critical race theory. So what does my blood type have to do with this? Okay, so these conspiracy theories are very much about white people, especially white people like me who have O negative blood, and 100% Viking DNA, that we are evil reptilian, space lizard aliens that were either, there's different ideas about where we came from, but you know some people think we're the lizard god Anunnaki from ancient Sumeria. Some people think we're from Atlantis. Some people think we're the archons from the Nag Hammadi texts, as David Icke describes. So, so this, and it's in particular the people with the O negative blood. So just like like David Icke describes, and these conspiracy theories, the melanin and original DNA conspiracy theories, very much line up with David Icke's conspiracy theories. And so the royal families of Europe and the people that ended up, dominating the world affairs, are, almost all have O negative blood. I guess most of the U.S. presidents as well. They're all descended from John of Lackland. John Lackland, does that sound right? It's the King John, the villain of the Robin Hood tales. And I am too, if the internet is to be believed. So it's particularly the people with this O negative blood and this 100% Viking DNA that are supposed to be these, lizard alien human hybrids descended from the Anunnaki of Sumeria. And, we're supposed to be evil, machine like, unemotional, psychopathic, just like Dr. Aruna Kilanani said, and in her Yale talk, her disgusting Yale talk, where she fantasized about killing white people. And David Icke even talks about this in his talks, when he talks about like the archons from the Nag Hammadi texts, that the archons are incapable of creativity, and that they have to basically suck off the vitality, the creativity, the humanity of human beings. And the human beings were, the black people with out of Africa with melanin in their skin. And so the white people like me are supposed to be, the evil lizard aliens. So I do think that Yale is in the thrall of these conspiracy theories. I do think that this is one aspect of these conspiracy theories. And I do think that this was one of the reasons why the Yale administration targeted me. I do. It's one of the reasons why the Yale administration targeted me. And because it's an aspect of these conspiracy theories, and Yale is in the thrall of these conspiracy theories. I also think that the Yale administration wanted to stop me from completing my Saving the World project, which, like I said, is an analysis of, how to minimize the oppression inherent to our social institutions. Well, the most powerful social institutions, the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world, they don't want that to happen. They like the world just as it is. They want to maintain the status quo because they like being the ones in control. So there's that. So so this O negative, well, R negative in general, but O negative in particular. So, but R negative, RH negative. It's the RH negative. RH stands for rhesus factor, which is it's the RHD factor or antigen. It's a protein on the outside of the cell. And so now if you don't have it, then you're Rh negative. And if you have it, you're Rh positive. And then that's one aspect of blood type. And then of course there's also, you can be A, B, or O. And like I've said, I'm O negative. So I lack this RhD antigen, this protein on the outside of the cell. And so when you have Rh negative blood, there's only about 15% of the world's population that has Rh negative blood. And so according to these conspiracy theories, so it's supposed to be, you're not supposed to be able to clone it, apparently. And it's definitely a recessive gene. It's recessive, and it's also, blood type is also considered to be one of the sort of like most robust genetic traits that you can pass on. So it's interesting. So like there's really there are really sort of like kind of crazy interesting things about having O negative blood, and it's something that I have personal experience with from my family. Is that, so my father is Rh positive, but his mother was Rh negative. And so he had one positive and one negative. What are they called? Alleles? Chromosomes? Anyway. So my mother my parents are still alive. But she's Rh negative. And so actually I'm one of 4 children. So my sister Rachel was first, then me, then my brother Aaron, and then my brother Jacob. So now, given the way it just worked out, so us 2 girls both have Rh negative blood, and we're girls, so that would have been the X chromosome from my father, from his mother. She was Rh negative, so we're girls, and so we're Rh negative. And so my brothers were both Rh positive. Now, what happens with pregnancy when you have an Rh negative woman who has an Rh positive baby, an Rh positive fetus? The first one, like with Aaron, it wasn't a problem, because the first one, it's not so much a problem, but it was a real problem with Jacob. So Aaron was fine. And but what happens is that the woman's body creates antibodies to attack the fetus as a foreign entity because of the blood difference in blood type. And so like for the first boy, for Aaron, my brother Aaron, it wasn't a big issue because my mom wasn't able to make enough antibodies to really hurt him. But the second one, Jacob, she was, and it did really hurt him. Now, the other interesting part of this for my family is that my family are Jehovah's Witnesses. And Jehovah's Witnesses, if they have sort of like a cardinal sin, it's blood transfusions. So like blood is really sacred. Blood is sacred. And it's funny because I have O negative blood, so I really should be donating blood, but I have never been able to donate blood. And I haven't been a Jehovah's Witness forever, of course, but it's just one of those things where, when you grow up in a cult, you just get so brainwashed, and it's just really, it would just be really difficult for me, to donate blood. So this is important because, they actually had they had the RhoGAM shot. What's the RhoGAM shot? So for a situation like my mother was in at the time that she gave birth to my brother Jacob. You have a woman with Rh negative blood and a fetus with Rh positive blood. And you know her body is going to make antibodies to attack the fetus. So now we've developed this thing called the RhoGAM shot. Now the RhoGAM shot is made from some blood parts. And so Jehovah's Witnesses' blood is sacred. And so some Jehovah's Witnesses won't take the RhoGAM shot because they think of it as being a sin, a cardinal sin, just like taking a blood transfusion. And my mother chose not to take the RhoGAM shot. They did have it at that time, but I think that it was relatively new still. My brother Jacob was born in 1986. He was actually born on the day that the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up in the sky. It was January 28th, 1986. So that was quite a day for me, from everyone in my family. So anyway, Jacob got very, very sick in the womb, and she had to be rushed to the hospital for an emergency C-section, and he almost died. He came out and he was just yellow, jaundiced, bloated. He almost died. He was in the baby intensive care for 3 months, and he was taken away by the state as soon as he came out because so that he could be given a blood transfusion. So this is like not really I could do a whole other video on all of this, but anyway, so that was a big thing that made me start to plan to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, because I was so furious that my parents had denied my baby brother a life-saving blood transfusion, and he had to be taken away by the state, and then they gave him a blood transfusion. So anyway, the whole point of me telling you all that, I don't want this video to get too long. The whole point of me telling you all that is that it's serious. Like, my baby brother Jacob almost died, and he was in the intensive care unit for 3 months, and so it's very serious. It's called infant hemolytic disease. So this is a very peculiar phenomenon that happens, because it just seems like, well, if we're the same species, then we should be able to breed. We should be able to, have kids. And it seems like there's something very different about people with Rh negative blood than people with Rh positive blood, because it can be very difficult for us to breed, to make babies together, and that you just don't think that should be happening. So there are a lot of traits that people say ascribe to people with Rh negative blood, and in particular with people with O negative blood. And I admit that I have most of these traits. I have, reddish hair. I dye my hair red, but I have reddish hair. My brothers had absolute reddish hair. I have mostly green hazel eyes. And, I mean, I'm not the genius in the family. Jacob was definitely the genius, but admittedly, I'm super smart. I have had a lot of paranormal experiences, premonitions, ESP, astral projection. I used to, and people can believe me or not, but I used to sort of astral project at will as a child. But it scared me because Jehovah's Witnesses are the lives of Jehovah's Witnesses, it is a cult. It's a cult. I say it's a cult of demonology. They're obsessed with demons, and so anything having to do with the occult is or spiritism, etc., is considered you're inviting demons into your life. So it terrified me when I did this, so I ended up not doing it. I don't want this video to get too long. You know what, I think I'll stop there for now, and I'll probably just do a part 2, probably more parts. I mean, there's so much to talk about on this subject, but I think I'll stop there for now. Okay, I'll have all my fundraising links below, and I love you all so much. Okay, have a great night. Bye.